peace must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.
The ingredients of a redemption strategy, if they are done in an opposite manner, can create very dangerous conflict at the end. Are we likely to forget what we saw in 2007 early June, when drums of war were being sung by the same tanks, the same alternatives, the same statements? Do we forget history so much, so quickly? How will history judge us harshly if we repeat what is only 14 years ago, one of the worst nightmares that the people of Kenya had, one of the worst vocabulary that they have never witnessed in such a magnitude? It is therefore very important that at this angle, at this era, at this juncture, what is needed in Kenya today is a redemption strategy. President Uhuru Kenyatta and former Prime Minister Raila Amolo Odinga initiated what we call a redemption strategy. Any conflict resolution expert will agree that a redemption strategy looks for areas that have decayed, areas that have broken down, souls that are desperate, souls that are violent, souls that have gone for given desperate state of despondence coming in, creation of class struggle can create the worst type of conflict that you have ever seen in our history. We therefore call upon the people of Kenya themselves to look at these 5 keywords. 1, accountability. When the government talks of wiping out corruption, support them. That's accountability. 2, truth telling. When the churches receive rotten money and they send rotten money to God through prayers, you create a gap. 3, reconciliation. When a country does not reconcile the past, the current, and perhaps the production of the past and the current, there will be a future. The country cannot have a good future. 4, restitution. The amount of damage caused by several factors in Kenya, therefore, create an urgent need for restitution of society, restitution of morals, restitution of our national ethics, ethos. That's why BBI, with its 9 points, will work as a restituting body to find out where you went wrong and to bring it to a shape. Renewal of hope is to restitute. Equally, the 5th one is reparations. There are still people and there are still those who harbor the past the past injuries. There are still those who still look for their loved ones. There are still those who want their houses back. There are still those who see smoke in the houses where they used to live for 50 years. Have we reparated them? Have we brought back sanity? And finally, in a redemption strategy, if we do all this and find out what makes us quarrel every day,
A very good morning to you. It is the 7th of January 2021. My name is Miriam Ogutu and the show is Good Morning Africa. Good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're watching us from, even as the world is baffled by what is happening right now in the US. But that will be a topic at 11 a.m., so we shall not get into the details of it. And so here we're going to look at the news-making headlines across Kenya and indeed some across Africa. And before I introduce my panelists this morning, I'd like to bring us up to date with the latest figures in terms of COVID-19. And in Kenya this morning, the number of confirmed cases stands at 97,398 cases. The death toll is 1,694. Recoveries is 79,966. And Uganda, the cases is at 36,702. 294 people have died. Recoveries right now stands at 12,494 cases. And the total cases in Africa is at 2,737,552. And the number of deaths in the continent is at 93,705. Recoveries so far is at 2,534,110, and the global figures have surpassed 87.6 million cases, and the global deaths have surpassed 1.8 million cases, and the recoveries right now have topped 63.1 million cases. So with me on the panel this morning is Kidi Mwaga, a lawyer from Nairobi. Kidi, a very good morning to you.
Good morning, Miriam. Good morning and good afternoon and good evening to our viewers around the world. And it's usually a pleasure joining them in this show.
All right, very well. Nice to have you on the show this morning. And we're also joined by Jevan Karanja from Nanyuki. Jevan, good morning.
A very good morning. Good morning, Miriam, and to our viewers, wherever they are catching this broadcast from. And good morning to my co-panelist. Thank you.
All right, very well. And we're also joined by Douglas Kirimi from Meru County. Douglas, good morning.
Good morning, Miriam. Good morning to the crew at our headquarters in Nairobi, and good morning to all our friends in the world. Good afternoon and good evening, depending on where they're watching us from. And good morning to my friend Jevan Karanja and my friend Kidi Mwaga.
All right, very well. Thank you so much, and thank you all for being on the show this morning. I know we all want to talk about what happened in Capitol Hill, but we're going to save that conversation for 11 a.m. when Dr. will be joining us. Right now, let's just get into the headlines, and we start with the Daily Nation. Revealed night, Kenyatta flipped U-turn on BBI as the world bid farewell to 2020 on December 31st. The Senate Majority Whip was holed up in a meeting in his Murang'a home with strategists and locals, which saw him cross into the new year a changed man. Why am I not really surprised? But let's just get the details of that story on page 7 of the Daily Nation. And it continues to say, a secret meeting on New Year's Eve at the home of Senate Majority Whip Uhuru Kenyatta gave rise to the bare-knuckle letter he fired to President Kenyatta, warning of an imminent flop of the Building Bridges initiative in Mount Kenya, the Nation can now reveal. The meeting the Nation has established was a culmination of a series of others following the December 15th Jubilee Party loss in the Gaturu ward by election to a candidate to Deputy President William Ruto's choice. Intelligence sources document events on New Year's Eve when Mr. Kenyatta hosted a strictly vetted meeting at his Murang'a at home. And deliberations of the gathering resulted in him igniting the current raging fire, as well as stirring trouble in Mr. Kenyatta's Jubilee wing and the restive political bastion of Central. The sources put the number of the meeting attendees at 24, 3 from each of the 8 sub-counties, as well as a summit of some other 8 strategists. The agenda of the gathering, sources say, was founding of candidate Kenyatta for 2022 Murang'a gubernatorial bid. A source of the meeting confided that it ended being a surgical analysis of Tanga Tanga and Keleweke, and in the end, Mr. Kenyatta was tasked to report to the president that all was not well on the ground. So apparently, according to maybe a person who, was part of this meeting or knew more about this meeting, these revelations that were made to the Daily Nation, about 24 attendees attending this meeting. So 24 people out of, I don't know how many members of parliament Jubilee Party has. So they decided this is, I don't know what is happening there in Jubilee Party. And Kenyatta being the leader of government business there in Senate, the majority leader there in Senate, I mean, this should be wrong from the word go. Akidi, start off for us.
Well, one thing is that every time a noble cause shall be deterred by conspirators out to self-seek. And this is a demonstration that Kenyatta, finally, we have indicated when we say that Kenyatta was not acting in good faith. And because these gentlemen apparently were meeting, and therefore everything Kenyatta has done or was purporting to do since the year began demonstrates that he was acting on behest of other people who are also seeking their own self-interest. Yes.
Mm-hmm. All right, Douglas. Now, apparently there was a meeting. Kenyatta had a meeting with about 24 people there from, I guess the leadership, drawn from the leadership of Central Mount Kenya region. And that's when he came out with this letter. And being the leader of government business in the Senate, surely. What do you make of all this? Mm-hmm.
Thank you. And what I believe as of now is that from Tanga Tanga he came, and to Tanga Tanga he shall return, and he has already returned. And also many things will come out about Kenyatta and all that. Remember, it is the same Kenyatta group that hatched a plan to go and snatch Sabina Chege, who is also eyeing the Murang'a gubernatorial seat, to go and also join Tanga Tanga. But what baffles me is how Kenyatta has also let down his integrity and also be corrupted with Kemorera and Arol Dam money. That is Kemorera and Arol money that is rolling in Murang'a County. And we have seen a deputy president team permit in Murang'a. They have grown roots in Murang'a County, and the few leaders that are left there are also now getting the handouts from Sugoi. And at the end of the day, when people say that Kenyatta is acting on behalf of Tanga Tanga and Deputy President and is taking instructions from Karen, we have indicated, like Kidia said, now people can see, Kenyans can be able to see that Kenyatta is not patriotic, Kenyatta is not a man of the moment, Kenyatta is not a man that can be able to be trusted with the seat at the Senate. On the that day, on 7th of January 2021, this year, I am again asking that the Jubilee Party ranks sack Kenyatta serving the party. Interest of the Wilbaru Party, and at this point, we only need to get Kenyatta out of that position.
Mm-hmm. All right, very well. So the story continues. A source at the meeting confided that it ended being a surgical analysis of the Tanga Tanga and Kieleweke, and in the end, Mr. Kenyatta was tasked to report to the president that all was not well on the ground. He was instructed to tell Mr. Kenyatta that Mount Kenya was complaining of being forced into unpalatable political formations, was drilling under policy-driven business hardships, and that generally the president had become a stranger to them, hence rebellion against him and his administration was at its peak. Javan.
Thank you, Miriam, for that question. And this is something that we anticipated, and we could just see who Kenyatta is even before such kind of confidential sources are telling us. And one thing, Miriam, you have seen, and this is a person who is positioning himself to be the next governor of of Murang'a. This comes after the incumbent governor serves his 2 terms, because Mwangi wa Iria is retiring from being a governor. Maybe he'll seek another elective position, but as per the constitution, he will not vie as a governor for Murang'a in the next general election. Therefore, Kenyatta is a man who is positioning himself to be the governor, and he is trying to do all means. Miriam, you know, when you are ambitious, anything that seems promising to you, that is where you go and you feel satisfied. And that is why you have seen the flipping and then flopping of the senator. He was in Tangatanga. He joined the team of the president at the handshake. Now he is heading to where he came from in Tangatanga. And this is something that will come to play as we move on to 2022, because there are some politicians who are over ambitious and they are not certain what they will do to achieve that they will keep following politicians who promise them that they will deliver their ambitions. And Miriam, we have seen, and we said that this research and this survey that Irungu Kenyatta purported to have done was not done out of good faith. And we have seen it was a meeting in his home. And when you have people coming to your home, they will come to praise you. They will come to tell you how big you are, how better positioned you are to take the gubernatorial position in Murang'a, and they will end up even confusing you more, because you see that letter didn't come from Kenyatta, it was not genuinely from Kenyatta, but from the people who surrounded him at that moment. And to say that the president has lost grips in Mount Kenya region, that's just a fallacy that is being created by those who hate the president and by those who don't support the handshake. Because in Mount Kenya region, we have a problem. People go to vote because of one factor called Raila Amolo Odinga. It's either you vote to send Raila Amolo Odinga home, or you send to see him coming to power. That is the factor that have been there since 2007. People don't go there to vote for an agenda. And that is why you see these politicians, they are quite bitter when they see the handshake between President and Raila Amolo Odinga, because they will have no agenda to sell to the people. Because when they come to the ground, they will tell us, vote for us, and when we go there, we'll make sure that this Mzee, former Prime Minister, will not be near State House, will not be near power. And that is the agenda that they have been selling here. And we saw even before 2017, the likes of Moses Kuria are using unpalatable words to describe the former prime minister and the region he comes from. And you see him even landing in jails and even being aligned in court for hate speech and incitements. Therefore, these politicians, they are still the one who are against the president and against the handshake. Not necessarily that because the president have not developed the region. It's because of one factor called the handshake, because Raila Amolo Odinga is there. And I told you, Miriam, last week, if today it happens that president it happens like the handshake falls and it's divided, and the president and the former prime minister, they fall away. These people in Tangatanga, they will be the first people to celebrate, and they'll start praising the president, how he has done development, how he has turned this country around in terms of services delivery, because their problem is former Prime Minister Raila Amolo Odinga. Therefore, even for Kenyatta to come here, he is just trying to incite Kenyans and the people from that particular region on the same issue they usually do in order to get to power. And Miriam, it will be a surprise if former Prime Minister happens to be supported by a number in Mount Kenya. You see this politician, if BBI sees the light of the day, they will now move from Tangatanga and they will come to praise a former Prime Minister Raila Amolo Odinga, because they have realized how Kenyans the Mount Kenya residents have changed the tune. Therefore, it's hypocritical and it is hatred, and there's nothing Kenyatta is saying about the development, because we saw him last year going around with the PS and the CS for Transport, Macharia, inspecting government project in Muranga and the entire Mount Kenya region. At that time, he was praising the government of the day. Therefore, these politicians are hypocritical. And Miriam, to some point, when money comes in, it ruins even a good characters, because I think money is what is driving Kenyatta. And you know, when you join Karen, we are told that is where we have the big pockets around this country. And you have seen even politicians who are sober-minded, politicians who criticize the deputy president the most, the likes of Hassan Omar, Boni Khalwale. Today they praise him because of the huge amounts of money that they are getting. Therefore, Miriam, this is something that will keep playing on. And not only Kenyatta, we expect to see more a politician changing tune as time goes, putting into consideration what they are aiming to get in future.
All right. All right, very well. Thank you so much. So according to this meeting, Kid, here, we're not learning that initially they were to meet to start plotting for Kenyatta's, 2022 bid. He wants to run for the governor of that county. And so that apparently was the initial reason for the meeting, and then it boiled down. They told him, from the story I'm reading right now, in the meeting, Mr. Kenyatta was also put on his defense over his association with the Kieleweke faction of the Jubilee Party. So he was put to task. Why are you supporting? That will be President Uhuru Kenyatta, I suppose, according to how the Jubilee factions are. But now he is the leader of the government business in Senate, and yet he's put in a position where he has to choose. I guess he cannot fully go in there and execute his mandate as the leader of the government business in Senate. And it appears as though him and President Uhuru Kenyatta, who is the leader of the Jubilee Party that has given him that position, they seems to be speaking from different positions there. So would it be right now for Mr. Kenyatta, perhaps, due to whatever other interests that are behind, and maybe that may be contradicting with his ambitions of becoming 2022 governor, from what you're reading this story, would it be right for him now perhaps to step down?
Truth is, by the time we were going to 2017 elections, William Ruto was wielding so much power. And courtesy of that power, you realize that he presumed that 2022 elections was a formality, but he saw himself as a president already. So what did he do? What he did is in the public knowledge that in the president's backyard, because in his arithmetic, he only needed his Kalenjin block and the Kikuyu vote and a few votes from the rest part of the country, and then he could rig himself in. And that partly explains why William Ruto has consistently, vehemently opposed both the handshake and the BBI process. Because the handshake and the BBI process have sought to do the obvious, to course correct. But let me answer your question now. William, part of the leadership that was elected in central Kenya were people who were rigged in by William Ruto. Because you remember, the immediate former senator for Muranga was Wakili Kembi Gitura. Kembi Gitura are part of people who William Ruto ensured that were rigged out. And you realize that most of the people whom William Ruto financed, including Uhuru Kenyatta, were young people who didn't have the money to run for election. Because the good old adage says that he who has the gold calls the tune. So William Ruto, having financed the likes of Kenyatta and Ndindi Nyoro, he gave them the express instruction that your responsibility now is to ensure that there is a Ruto presidency in 2022. So that, of course, when handshake came, which they didn't anticipate, then it threw some of them off guard. And as a result, because of the need to make sure that changes were done in the National Assembly and in the Senate, and the likes of Kihika and Murkomen were kicked out, Kenyatta found himself as a beneficiary in spite of the fact that his allegiance was elsewhere. So what then does he do? He is here charged with the responsibility of leading the government troops in parliament. But his heart was still in Tanga. So what did he do? He was there acting as if he is leading the government business, but in constant contact and fellowship with his fellow hitsmen in Tanga. But then, you see, there are three things Buddha said that cannot be hidden for long: the sun, the moon, and the truth. So the truth about allegiance of Irungu Kenyatta finally has come out. And if they held a meeting, supposedly, to do a surgical analysis of Kitangatanga and Kieleweke, that still demonstrates to you that his heart is elsewhere. And of course, not with the government and not with the BBI. And this leads me to my next point, that one thing that this generation, we the young people, now must do, because we are referred to as the millennials, the 90s, and we must now really make sure that we get into the politics and change the politics as it is played. Because the politics of zero-sum game leaves all of us poor, leaves all of us in despair, leave all of us disillusioned. Because the politics of zero-sum game is I win and everybody else loses. So that Kenyatta is looking at 2022 elections through the narrow prism of him becoming the governor and controlling the billions that are available to the governor, but then failing to realize that a commitment, and a genuine and honest commitment to the BBI process, would one ensure that a greater swath of the populace are rescued from the circle of violence every election year, everyone, that we reduce the tension that such politics comes with, that ordinary people who are in business are not removed from business because we are in political dispute. But then Kenyatta, being whom he is, looking at self-interest, has decided to remain blind to these obvious facts. I submit.
Okay, thank you, Kidi. And the story continues there. While the Kenyatta letter is dated December 30th, a day before the meeting, it is believed that it is after the New Year's Eve a meeting that the letter was actually written before it hit media headlines on January 3rd, causing a storm in President Kenyatta's Mount Kenya backyard. The letter, which Mr. Kenyatta sent to Jubilee Party leader through Secretary General Raphael Tuju, has stirred Kenyatta's political landscape and put at risk the senator's planned job in the House. And we know we came back here on Monday, and we've been looking at this letter, and it sounded like it came from somewhere, and we've been you guys have called it out, so now the truth is out here. The letter was written even before that meeting happened, so that is agenda that was well thought through. Even I think before he got the views of the people in that meeting, apparently that is something that was well calculated, and that was just a formality. And that just brings me to my next question. If that was like a radical surgery or an honest truth, or we're just gathering information, as I see here, a part of the story saying Mr. Kenyatta confirmed that their meeting was stormy, and as a Jubilee diehard loyal to President Kenyatta, I saw it wise to collect the intelligence and compile it and bring it to the attention of the party and its leader. Who gave him the mandate to do that? Douglas. That should be a mandate from the party organs. Should the ones who are, would see it and collect that information and sit down and see which way forward. All right, but he decided to do this on his own, volition there, and meeting with these people, and then decide, instead of then taking this intelligence and taking it to the person that is supposed to be speaking to, the head of the party, that is President Kenyatta, he decides to write a letter which somehow finds itself in the public arena before even it reaches President Uhuru Kenyatta there. What does this say about Mr. Kenyatta as a person? Do you read any form of dishonesty in how this played out, Douglas?
Those who don't know Kenyatta will tell you many things about Kenyatta, but me, I've known Kenyatta since 2015. I know Kenyatta is a very cunning politician, and as my friend, I would also request him now that the time has come for him to leave government and also go to Tanga. And also, in the same region that Kenyatta comes from, we are very serious, experienced politicians that would have spoken to president, even going to his home, or even talking to the party ranks, or even to the BBI secretariat. But Kenyatta chose to break our protocol for his own political expediency and his own political survival. When you read that letter, I noticed something, and that has been very consistent with these people, is that they were saying that people should be able, the masses, whereas that the country is broke, and also we have other things to look at, especially broke because of COVID-19, and other things that we have to look as a country, like a building of classes in places where governors have eaten the funds for ECD classes, small children are standing under trees, and also where headmasters have eaten development funds from Ministry of Education. Kenyatta was asking for people to be able to give them money so that they can be able to eat that money, because that is the language and the song that they sang from Sugoi, in the quarters where they received the instructions, and also the current government house where William Ruto stays as a government deputy president. But one thing that comes out from Kenyatta is that Kenyatta is not an honest human being, and before that, people from Tanga knew that Kenyatta is going live on TV, but he caught, how did he catch the intelligence off guard, the government apparatus and everything? Only people from Tanga knew that he is going to speak on TV. It means that these things were premeditated, and Kenyatta is just misleading people. And number one factor that came out from the whole ordeal that Kenyatta has been orchestrating since the day he released the letter has been to embarrass the president so that the region will continue turning against the president. Yesterday, to confirm my point, Tanga people and Deputy President William Ruto were in Embu, County, where the sister to the Cardinal John Jue of Catholic Church was being buried in Embu. And William Ruto said BBI has wasted a lot of time, and now they have its own medicine, which means BBI imeturudisha nyuma sana na tuko na ndawa yake, which ostensibly means that William Ruto continues with his own plans to continue scattering the BBI process, whereas he's been talking about him reading the development agenda. He has been propagating, and even in Embu yesterday propagated the agenda of the Wilbaru party that he has formed through Modama and other people, that they have formed other parties. We have seen William Ruto receiving people from the People's Empowerment Party, especially the Gaturi Esther Mwanikis, from candidate who had won through the People's Party, which are surrogate parties of William Ruto. We have seen how William Ruto can turn good souls like Kenyatta and the rest to be crooks and also dishonest people. Kenyatta has become one of the disgrace in our political leadership today. And all I'm asking the Jubilee Party to do is that the Jubilee Party should rain on Kenyatta and also deal with him decisively as a party without fear of favor across the world, including in the USA, where actually now they are experiencing some small turmoil. Since the beginning of their democracy of us 260 years ago, when deputy presidents or vice presidents and ministers and all that would not agree with the president would sack them or the party would de-whip them. So when Kenyatta is de-whipped, there is no witch hunt or nothing. It is just that he doesn't believe in Jubilee Party. He believes in the United Democratic Alliance of William Ruto, and there is nothing sentimental about it. It is just that William Ruto and his friend Irungo Kenyatta have been planning and also executing the plan to embarrass the president and scatter the BBI process. What the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya said yesterday in Embu, it was a very grave mistake that could not have been said by a leader of his caliber when they said that BBI has been a thorn in the flesh, but they have got a solution now. It is the high time that we deal with Dr. Uhuru Kenyatta and also Dr. William Ruto, and also whip them from the party. But for William Ruto is a case that is already done because he has already acted and deemed to have vacated his position in Jubilee Party, because the law says that if you deem or also act in a manner that suggests that you are supporting another party or propagating the ideas, you have been suspended from that party by law. So William Ruto is an illegal deputy president. Uhuru Kenyatta is an illegal majority whip in the Senate. All I'm asking our party leadership in Jubilee Party is that they need to be able, in their ranks, to be able to deal with them using party mechanisms, the same way they had recommended the NEC and recommended the National Management Committee and recommended to the NEC that William Ruto be expelled from Jubilee Party as a party leader. Now they should take a step and strike his name as a member of Jubilee Party from the role of the members, and also Uhuru Kenyatta and all their friends who have even gone ahead and formed the parties. Miriam, at this point, Uhuru Kenyatta has shown that he is not a patriotic Kenyan, and his interest as a politician has superseded that interest of Kenyans. And at the end of the day, Kenyans have to judge Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto for who they are. They are hypocrites and people who are hiding by the development of Kenya, and also trying to, one, embarrass the president of the Republic of Kenya, and number two, downgrade the party that sent them to parliament, and also to the office of the deputy president. I submit.
All right, very well, Douglas, thank you. And also you brought up that that event, that funeral service there that was happening, and we shall come to that, a bit of some things that were said. Tankoi Adam, you wrote us this morning. Thank you so much for watching, and you're saying, if by chance he wants to position himself as a governor, then he must have read the ground and realized that he cannot win a governorship if he's supposed to be BBI. Then he is wise of him to read the feeling of the people in his country. And Tankoi, I ask you this question then. If that is how he feels, and he is the leader of government business in the Senate, meaning that that is a different feeling or a different position from that of his boss and the party leader there, President Uhuru Kenyatta. Would it then be right for Mr. Kenyatta now to step down as the leader of the majority in Senate, because he seems to be reading from a different script from President Uhuru Kenyatta, and so he cannot effectively advance government position and government business in Senate? So is it right for him to continue being the leader of the Senate majority, Senate leader there in Senate? So please answer me, and thank you so much for interacting with us this morning. Javen, Kenyatta came out and saying that, as a Jubilee diehard loyal to President Kenyatta, I saw it wise to collect that intelligence and compile it and bring it to the attention of my party and its leader. I don't know if the Jubilee leadership told him to go to look for this intelligence and then compile. And even if he went and did that on his own, it appears, then there had to be a better channel for him to communicate these results of this finding. And how he did it, surely, that brings into question the intention of this meeting, after all, don't you think, Javen?
Yeah, Miriam, if what he says is true, that he is loyal to the president, and that the intelligence information that he purports to have was beneficial to the head of state, the best way he could have done is to meet the president and in his office. I'll call him, because I hope he has his number, because they are people, they are close friends, and they could have talked these issues together with the president without involving the public. But the public got the information before the president. You see, this points a picture of that this letter was not to be taken to the head of state, but was a letter directed to the public. And this letter didn't come from Kenyatta as a person. This letter was written from somewhere else, but Kenyatta was used as a medium or a channel to pass the information to the public, because he happens to be the majority whip, and he happens to come from the side of the president. Because if that information came from the Tanga wing of Jubilee, then nobody could be talking about it. Now they saw it twice because we have a Tanga spy in the Jubilee agenda, and that is Uhuru Kenyatta. He is the best person to use. And Miriam, even before Kenyatta appearing on television, it was on Sunday, the people on the Tanga bloggers had already started pointing holes and saying what Kenyatta was about to say. Therefore, these people had they were privy to the information. They had a profile of what Kenyatta was about to say. Therefore, this seems point a picture of a discussion that was held way before even this letter came to the public domain. Therefore, it is clear that Kenyatta was purporting to work with President Uhuru Kenyatta. He purported to be loyal to the president, but he turned out to be a person who is still with the deputy president. Mm-hmm. And that is the point. And there's something else that Kidi said, that in the 2017 Jubilee primaries, the deputy president was given that role to oversee the nominations. And Miriam, before that, we are told that the Jubilee nomination were to be overseen by the IBC. But at the latter days, things changed. And now the party certificates, the tickets were started being given under the tables. And that is why we came to a point where we saw prominent politicians being blocked out of a Jubilee ticket. And by doing so, they were in knowledge that if we block these people and the dominance that the Jubilee party has in the Mount Kenya region, then I'll be able to position those people who are loyal to me, and that is the deputy president. Mm-hmm. And that is why we end up having people from Mount Kenya region who don't see president as the president of the head state or a person who comes from their region, but they see the deputy president as the most important person in the Jubilee party. And that came because they were given these tickets, not because they deserved them, but through Malaysia's means. And that is why you look at Kiambu. We had Waititu. Now he has been out of power. He was impeached. When you go to Nairobi, we had Sonko and Peter Kenneth. And to some point, people said that Uhuru Kenyatta allegiance was to Peter Kenneth to get Jubilee ticket. But you see what happened. When you look to some constituencies, like in Muranga, and you see Dede Nyoro, Alice Wahome, and you go to Kiambu, you see the other members of parliament who are loyal to president, deputy president to death. This is because they were given this ticket, and some of them were not financially powerful to fight for this position, and that is why they still follow him for his financial support, so that in 2022, if things are going to change and they happen to run with a party that is dominant in Mount Kenya region, then they will have the money maybe to corrupt 1 or 2, 3 voters. Therefore, that is the case that was happening all around. Therefore, these people, the likes of Kenyatta, they are loyal to the deputy president because he's the one maybe on one way or the other. He gave them the Jubilee tickets, and he helped them to be in the position they are in today. All
right, very well. Javen, thank you so much. So, of course, Douglas brought up that meeting, or that, where Deputy President and his allies yesterday spoke in Kariuri Catholic Church in Embu County yesterday during the funeral service of the late Jones Wakinyo and Njuki, the sister of the retired Cardinal John Jue. And we have a video of that. So let's just take a look and then we shall be back.
Na tuko na vile tunapanga kuhakikisha ya kwamba nafasi za kazi zinapatikana, kwa sababu ukienda kwenye kila familia utakuta kuna watoto 2, 3 wamemaliza shule lakini hawana kazi, na hiyo ni changamoto kubwa katika taifa letu la Kenya. Vile vile tuko na hali ambapo watu wengi hawawezi kufanya biashara. Uchumi wa Kenya umerudi chini, na uchumi wa Kenya iko kwa mikono ya watu wachache. Tuko na watu wengi, zaidi ya watu milioni 16 hawana kazi ya kufanya, hawana biashara ya kufanya, na ni watu wa taifa letu la Kenya. Hawa watu milioni 16 wanaokula chakula lakini hawafanyi kazi, hawafanyi biashara, ni changamoto kubwa kwa taifa letu la Kenya, na ni lazima sisi kama viongozi tutafute suluhu ya haya matatizo, na suluhu ya haya matatizo haiwezi kuvalishwa sura ya kabila, na haiwezi kuwa na mipango ya jamii fulani ama kona fulani. Inahitaji a national approach, na mimi nataka niwaambie ya kwamba msikuwe na wasiwasi. Hii changamoto tuko nazo, Mungu atatupatia njia na tutazishughulikia, kwa sababu tuko na imani ya kwamba vile tuliweza kutekeleza mambo mengi pale nyuma, tukajenga reli, tumejenga barabara nyingi, tumeunganisha stima sehemu nyingi, tumejenga hizi technical training college. Tukimaliza na kazi hii ya dharura, hii emergency ilitokea ya BBI, tutarudi kufanya hiyo kazi na tutaitimiza. Hii ya BBI kuna wenyewe, na vile mumeuliza ya kwamba hizo vitabu ziletwe, wananchi wasome. Mimi nilikuwa nimesema kwa sababu kazi ni nyingi, mimi nisaidie president katika ile kazi ya maendeleo ya barabara hiyo, stima, maji hiyo. Wengine pia washughulike na hii ya BBI. Na kwa sababu kazi ni kazi, si ndio? So wakati nilienda Bomas, nikaona inataka kwenda Kombo, nikasema wacha ninyoroshe kidogo. Nikajaribu kuwasaidia kunyorosha, lakini sasa tena wamechelewa, hawajaleta kusomesha wananchi. So mimi naomba wale wanahusika na hii mambo ya BBI, tafadhali leteni wananchi wasome ndio waamue, kwa sababu Kenya ni yetu sisi wote. Meanwhile, mimi nitashughulika na ile kazi mlituchagua tufanye. Tutasaidia Uhuru Kenyatta kufanya ile kazi ya maendeleo. Alafu hiyo mambo ingine tutasema tukifika hapo mbele. Kwa hivyo mimi sitaki kusema kuzidi hapo. Mimi nimefurahi kufika hapa. Tulete pole zetu kwa mama, na ile tu, the one commitment I want to make is that liwe liwalo, Kenya hii lazima iende mbele. Hatuwezi kuruhusu Kenya irudi nyuma. Hatuwezi. Tunamwamini Mungu, na kuna vile Mungu anaweza kurudi ama kukubali Kenya hii irudi nyuma kwa mambo ya ukabila, kwa maneno ya migawanyiko na chuki, na mahali ambapo hatuna suluhu ya vile Kenya inaweza kwenda mbele. I have faith that God is going to give us the opportunity to do that which will come.
All right, and a couple of things there by Deputy President William Ruto. I'm amazed, by how he, some of these things and how he chooses to express them depending on where he's actually at. And so he's saying, BBI iko na wenyewe, and also saying that this should be brought to the people to read, which that I agree. A lot of people have not had an opportunity to go through this report, and I'm sure the government will avail the copies of this report so that Kenyans are able to read and understand what is there in the BBI. And also, you also mentioned the achievements of the Jubilee government, which I think was it a couple of weeks ago before we took our break, where Deputy President was saying, the developmental agenda of the Jubilee government has been derailed by this BBI. But now he's come out and mentioned a couple of things that the Jubilee government have been able to achieve so far. So he's very proud of that. And also he's saying businesses have been affected. Business have been affected in Kenya, in Africa, across the world. COVID-19 has messed up every country. I don't know if there's one country that is still okay. COVID-19 has messed up every country across the world and the economies across the world, and a couple of other things. So Kidi, I'll start with you. Your reaction from what Deputy President there is saying or has said.
Now, there are moments when a leader insults the collective intelligence of the nation. And that is exactly what William Ruto is doing. By trying to disassociate himself from a project that his boss has committed himself to, and purporting that he is committed to some other ideals that his boss is not pursuing, is not only being dishonest but also disingenuous. Why am I saying disingenuous? William Ruto talks about the unemployment menace that we are in. Truth is, there is no government all over the world that can fully provide employment for its people. The best the government can do is to create conducive environment for private sector to thrive, and therefore, for people to create those jobs for themselves. But then you look at what William Ruto is part of. William Ruto is part of what we call the Eurobond menace. You see, after the Eurobond, and the government still needed money to sustain itself, the government went to a massive domestic borrowing. And that is what we call crowding out. When the government crowded out the private sector by engaging in the domestic borrowing, the net effect is that the banks prioritized the government over private sector. And that effectively means that the private sector could not generate sufficient revenue to sustain the government. And so that when in 2018, you remember when there was the VAT talk, when especially shortly after the handshake, it was in part because the government was in the doldrums in economics. Mm-hmm. And subsequently, government has attempted to try to balance the books. But truth is, by the time Jubilee was getting into the second term, there was not a single penny at central bank. Last month, the salaries of civil servants delayed so much. These are not things that have emerged now. They are part of the collective decisions made by the Jubilee government that William Ruto is part of. So when William Ruto goes to Embu and tells them that katika boma yoyote kuna watu wawili watoto ambao wana kazi, he is first insulting the intelligence of those people. Because he has not demonstrated that the little that he has had as deputy president, what has he done? Especially using the immense powers bestowed in that office as the principal assistant to the president. Sorry.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Secondly, leveraging on the number of MPs that he enjoyed in first term with his URP party. Thirdly, using the numbers of the people from his backyard, the Rift Valley, and the number of MPs that he sponsored in the central backyard, he has not demonstrated that what has he done that would want to ensure that these young people who do not have jobs, who have sufficient education, are cushioned. William Ruto has demonstrated. So him going to Embu and across the country and selling himself as a savior is, ending where I started, an insult to the collective intelligence of the people of Kenya. Thank you.
All right, very well. Thank you so much, Kitty. Now, Douglas, DP Ruto there started by mentioning the figures of the Kenyans who do not have jobs, and he said about 16 million Kenyans who are of age do not have jobs, and of course, that is a fact. Joblessness is a real challenge in this country, except that is what I am supposed to be saying, telling the government, so where are the jobs that you said you will create? Asking. And what Deputy President William Ruto perhaps should be doing, being part of that government, is telling me and the rest of Kenyans how the government is addressing this challenge or this problem or this concern that has affected Kenyans. But instead, what are we seeing Deputy President doing? Douglas.
Thank you, Miriam. That is a very good question for the people that think the Deputy President is an alien to this government. For the purposes of record, Deputy President William Ruto was elected in 2013, and by 4th of March 2013, they were elected President and Deputy President. And since then, and in 2017, they defended their seat and they won. He's been part and parcel of government. Actually, today, we are even fighting him on TV, media, even from land and air for him to resign. He doesn't want to resign from the same government that he accuses of not creating job opportunities for people. Deputy President William Ruto went on a campaign trail, and even actually afterwards, in 2013, he said government will be creating millions of jobs every year. I think it's 5 million, if I'm not wrong, 5 million jobs every year. These jobs, Deputy President has not been able to marshal the government in 2013, 2017, and now we are in 2020, 2021 to be able to bring those jobs to the people. And when our old Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya goes on rampage on national television, on various constituencies and counties in this country, and talks about jobs and also people who have graduated and all that, and they have not been able to get jobs, I'm reminded of when Deputy President and President Uhuru Kenyatta at the launch of Jubilee Party, when they were at Bomas, he said that government will be giving these graduates an opportunity to work and get paid every year. And Deputy President has not told us when he was in Embu yesterday how many of those graduates that he was talking in that congregation have been able to be employed, to be given an internship, paid internship. Government is doing that, but he has not been able to tell us how many he has been able to push as a Deputy President who serves in the executive. Deputy President did not tell us in Embu. We have tried in the millions of jobs that we promised in 2013. Here in Embu, we have employed 50,000 youths, and we are intending to employ 1 million more from Embu County. He has not told us, because when he is in Mount Kenya, he talks about how government is not working for the people and how they will work in 2022 when they get an opportunity. Those things most of the time are cut off from national television so that we are not shown what his real talk is when he is with the people. Deputy President is a man that will take a microphone in Mount Kenya and tell people, I know most of you have no jobs and have no nothing. Do you want wheelbarrows or do you want BBI? Apparently, that is also a political statement that cannot be able to be substantiated with an wheelbarrow. Because William Ruto will give a few wheelbarrows in Karen and also go inciting Kenyans without giving tangible solutions like the Youth Commission that is going to be entrenched in the Constitution by BBI, so that the youth can be able to have their issues raised in the Constitution and also have a constitutional mandate to be able to work on the issues of Kenyans and especially the young people. When people like William Ruto, who is the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya,
Okay, seems to be having a problem there with the reception of Douglas Kirimi there from Meru. Once he's able to fix it, then he shall be back. Javan Karanja, Deputy President, they're lamenting on some of these things that feels that perhaps from what he's implying, the government has not been able to address. But he is the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya, for crying out loud. What I need to hear from him as a Kenyan, being my Deputy President, I want to hear him telling me how his government is addressing some of these issues, not lamenting. That is what I should be doing, and asking questions. He should be giving me the answers instead, don't you think?
Yeah, thank you, Miriam, for that question. And it's unfortunate that when I was listening to that a speech by the Deputy President in Embu yesterday, you could read malice, you could read misconceptions of information, and information that don't hold any weight. Because, Miriam, the Deputy President has taken the role of a voter, an electorate. Instead of answering the question, he is the one asking the question that is supposed to be coming from those who voted him. Because when he asks us about jobs, and he's telling us in every household, there's 2 or 3 people who are jobless. And in 2013, in 2017, he promised 5 million jobs after every financial year. Where are those jobs? He should be telling us what he have done when he in the capacity of the deputy president to ensure that we have jobs in this country, to ensure that young people are employed. But instead of doing that, he is telling us how the government is failing to do that. And the number two question that we need to ask the deputy president, what is he doing in a government that is not working for the people of Kenya? He should have resigned and concentrate on something else. But he is still working on the government, getting salary, allowances on the government that he says is mistreating its people. That is hypocritical, and I think we should be given a chance as Kenyans. Whenever the deputy president comes around where we are, we should be given a microphone from the audience, from the people who are listening to him, to ask him direct question as he is lying to Kenyans. And number two, Miriam, he is also telling us how the Jubilee government has failed to develop this country. And when he came to the conclusion, he told them, I'm not for the BBI, but I will support the government of Uhuru Kenyatta to continue working and to bring more roads in these areas. Which roads are you talking about, the Mr. Deputy President, when you are still sabotaging the same government, when you are painting the government in bad faith? It is high time that we differentiate between the Deputy President, Deputy President William Ruto, and William Ruto, who is ambitious to be the president of this country, because he speaks like two characters. It's like a movie, and he has taken roles of two characters. He is the super. He is the star, and he is also a minor character on the same movie. Because at then he also telling us how BBI, he is not part of the BBI, but he is still poking holes on the same BBI. He is still talking ill of the same BBI. If he is not interested in BBI, if he is there to support the president, why is he concentrating on the BBI? Why are the likes of Moses Kuria yesterday talking ill of the same process? Why is he saying that alinyorosha BBI huko Bomas? Therefore, he is happy when the BBI process is not seeing the light of the day. Therefore, it is hypocritical, and the deputy president speaks as a man who takes Kenya as fools, and he keeps telling us Kenyans the number of fools is declining, but he also thinks that the Kenyans fools are huge in this country, because that kind of a message, that coded information that he speaks yesterday, is paint a picture of a person who is not clear of his mandate as the deputy president. And number two, this question I'll be asked the deputy president, what will you do better as a deputy president that you are not doing now as the deputy president? He should also tell us who has curtailed his figures, who has flipped his wings, that he cannot perform, that he cannot deliver all these promises that he is telling these people. Can he only work to better this country when he is the president? And we have seen him as a member of parliament, as a minister of agriculture, and we all know what happened. Therefore, if from the start of his political career, he has not been associated with any successful project in this country, which miracle will happen when he becomes the president that will still performing, that is still delivering big things in this country? And then the last thing, and this goes to the people of Mount Kenya region. Why is he only concentrating on the Mount Kenya backyard? And to the people of Mount Kenya region, when you vote the deputy president, your usefulness with him will die at the ballot, because he assumes office as the president of the Republic of Kenya will have no use with the people of Mount Kenya region. He has use of them today. He pretends to care for them today because he needs votes from them. And when he gets votes from them, that will be the end of the business. Therefore, people should open their eyes and they should see the deputy president of who he is. And as a politician, he should also tell us, since he started his political career in early 90s, what has he achieved? What has he done? And that should form the basis of the leader who he intends to become in future. Because he has done something helpful in this country. He has tried to alleviate the poverty in this nation when he in the capacity of member of parliament, a councillor, and a minister. Then he can be the best person to lead this country. But because he is associated with all bad things that have happened in this country, I think he should go packing with the president in 2022, and they should go home as a pair. And the way we voted them, it should not be left out to continue bringing all these empty rhetorics to the good people of this country.
Okay. Jevon Karanja, thank you so much. We started by looking at the Daily Nation revealed night Kenyatta flipped, and we looked at that, so we will not get back to that. And also on the Star newspaper, why there may be no by-election in Nairobi. MCAs say they are on standby to vet the nominee and pave her path to power. The stories on page 4 and 5 of the Star newspapers and and on the Standard newspaper, a bolder Raila gloves off with time slipping away and rivals stealing the political space. ODM leader Raila Odinga is beginning to feel the heat of the handshake politics. In the new year, however, he is showing his teeth and reminding all he can bite hard. So that is on the front pages there of the Star newspaper, and the story is on page 6. You can get yourself a copy or go online and read it. Peter Murray, thank you nevertheless for watching. We appreciate your time this morning. We were looking at the headlines. So Deputy President William Ruto is the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya. So what he says and what he does matters, and carries some weight. So we did not just look at what he said yesterday, which I think is important in line with the current affairs and the political dynamics in this country right now, but also other stories. So it's not an obsession. We are looking at the headlines, and he is part of that. All right. But thank you for watching, and thank you for tuning in, and thank you all of you for finding time to be with us today. KD Mwaga, thank you so much for your time this morning. Douglas Kirimi, thank you so much. And Jevon Karanja, we shall be back here at 11 a.m. And this time, Peter, you might want to join us. We will take a break from the Kenyan politics, and we shall head over to the free country over there. And from what we saw happening yesterday at Capitol Hill, oh boy, I could not believe what I was seeing there. Things, I mean, democracy, if you say democracy is a trial or something like that, I mean, what we saw being depicted there in the U.S. Congress was something else. And the topic we will be having at 11, and Dr. Matanga shall be joining us, is what lessons can Africa learn from the U.S. elections and chaos. That is something you do not want to miss. My name is Miriam Agutum. A very good morning to you.
The ingredients of a redemption strategy, if they are done in an opposite manner, can create very dangerous conflict at the end. Are we likely to forget what we saw in 2007, early June, when drums of war were being sung by the same tanks, the same alternatives, the same statements? Do we forget history so much, so quickly? How will history judge us harshly if we repeat what is only 14 years ago, one of the worst nightmares that the people of Kenya had, one of the worst vocabulary that they have never witnessed in such a magnitude. It is therefore very important that at this angle, at this era, at this juncture, what is needed in Kenya today is a redemption strategy. President Uhuru Kenyatta and former Prime Minister Raila Amolo Odinga initiated what we call a redemption strategy. Any conflict resolution expert will agree that a redemption strategy looks for areas that have decayed, areas that have broken down, souls that are desperate, souls that are violent, souls that have gone forgiven, desperate, state of despondency coming in, creation of class struggle can create the worst type of conflict that you have ever seen in our history. We therefore call upon the people of Kenya themselves to look at these 5 keywords. 1, accountability. When the government talks of wiping out corruption, support them. That's accountability. 2, truth telling. When the churches receive rotten money and they send rotten money to God through prayers, you create a gap. 3, reconciliation. When a country does not reconcile the past, the current, and perhaps the production of the past and the current, there will be a future. The country cannot have a good future. 4, restitution. The amount of damage caused by several factors in Kenya, therefore, create an urgent need for restitution of society, restitution of morals, restitution of our national ethics, ethos. That's why BBI, with its 9 points, will work as a restituting body to find out where you went wrong and to bring it to a shape. Renewal of hope is to restitute. Equally, the 5th one is reparations. There are still people and there are still those who harbor the past injuries. There are still those who still look for their loved ones. There are still those who want their houses back. There are still those who see smoke in the houses where they used to live for 50 years. Have we reparated them? Have we brought back sanity? And finally, in a redemption strategy, if we do all this and find out what makes us quarrel every day, what makes Kenyans quarrel every day, what makes Kenyans have bent necks, walking with their necks like this, as if they want to go and kill somebody, is elections. Have you cleaned your elections? Does the Kenyan election need a redemption? The answer is yes. Do you need the mechanism to be redempted? The answer is yes. Kenya needs new electoral mechanisms. The one that will not bring and breed about violence, but that will usher us to a new era of tranquility, where the loser greets the winner and the winner greets the loser. The time will come when you need to have 2 papers, one for winning, one for losing. If candidates in Kenya can hold those 2 papers when they go to elections, this country will rise and shine again. Thank you, viewers. Thank you, my people. God bless you. God bless you.